Okay, I'm in my kitchen here working on a cityscape. It's a 20 by 20, I believe it's Washington Street, I could be wrong, in San Francisco. Anyway, I'm working on this, this is kind of a larger panel for me. I primed it with oil primer. You may have seen that in a previous video, Zinsser oil primer. And just kind of want to show you guys how I go about painting cityscapes. I haven't done a lot in this size, 20 by 20. I've done a lot in the sort of 12 by 12, 14 by 14 range, but I end up spending so much time on those that it's kind of hard to make it worth it financially to do those. And as you guys know, I like to work larger anyway, so this will be fun, but let me show you what I got so far. All right, I've got my laptop set up over here, and then the panel is right here. The first thing I'm trying to do is just get an interesting composition. So the way I did that was I just cropped this photograph in a way that where there's like kind of a nice shadow pattern. All right, I'm using Liquin here. I've got some in a palette cup, and that's because I want this painting to dry overnight. I don't know how far I'm going to get with it today, and I want to be able to come back in and work on it tomorrow and have the paint be dry and not like sticky or tacky. All right, so as you can see, I've got the drawing done, and I did not do any measuring at all. I just kind of eyeballed it and then just kept making corrections. I like to have the sketchy quality of like trying to feel out the composition. Some of that energy and some of that brushwork will actually remain in the finished painting. I kind of like coming at a painting in a loose and broad way and then refining as opposed to like measuring and making everything perfect. You end up losing the lines and losing the drawing anyway, especially with something as complicated as this. So for me, it's better just to get everything more or less in the right place, the large shapes, and then start going in and defining those shapes. And then it's up to you how far you take that definition. This is another thing I've been wanting to talk about. When painting complicated subject matter, it's really important to understand the details that define the object. That may be the theme of this video. When you're doing cityscapes, like say here we've got a row of cars, you know, there's like a row of cars on one side and the other. You can kind of get away with just painting highlights. So in other words, the whole, and maybe we'll do this if I can work it into the video here. So you're gonna paint, like say, most of the cars are just really dark, but then they've got, you know, they're reflective. So if you paint a dark section, you know, like say this is all black here, and then you just come in and put where the highlights are, just a few suggested highlights, that's it. Now there's certain painters that do like to come in and just duplicate everything, you know, but what I'm fascinated with is suggestive painting, where you figure out the details that you need to include and then allow the viewer to fill in the blanks. So that's kind of what I like. But let me show you up close what it looks like so you can see what a mess it is. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. I don't know, the paint is really just kind of mopped on there. I want that random quality to the paint strokes. Something that's not talked about very often or at least I haven't heard it talked about, is surface quality. In other words, you know, how the paint is applied and the texture of the surface of your painting. When I first started painting, I was just trying to get everything more or less in the right place and have the values correct. But the more I've painted, I sort of appreciate paintings that have an interesting surface as well. Like if you look at it closely, the way the paint is applied is really interesting. And oftentimes it's kind of cool to have areas of thick and thin, you know, areas where you can kind of see through where the paint is transparent, and then other areas where it is more opaque. There's a tradition to have transparent darks and opaque lights. I kind of stick to that, but sometimes I have transparent lights too. So we got a row of cars here going off down the street, and I've just sort of mopped on some paint using a large, like a number 10 flat, and now I'm going to come in and start putting the details in that will sort of define this whole area, and I don't want to overwork it. Okay, there's a lot of glare, but this gives you an idea. So I've just tried to suggest the cars. You can see the paint is really super loose, and I do not want to refine it any more than that. All right, so to recap, after I got my composition and did my sketch, I just kind of masked in some colors and used this as much as possible. It's kind of a blunt object to be using for a painting that has this kind of detail, but the idea is just to mask in the colors, get some interesting surface texture, and then come in with a smaller brush. I don't even know what this is. I don't know where I got it, but it doesn't really matter. It's a small round. You could use whatever works for you. And then just come back in and, you know, determine which details, like which highlights and which darks are necessary in order to define whatever it is you're painting. I hope you enjoyed this little cityscape exercise, or this cityscape painting. And as usual, if you got something out of this and you want to pitch in, there's a Patreon link down below. Also, welcome and thank you to my new Patreon supporters. Got a few over the last few days. Much appreciated, so thank you. And that's about it. So I will see you guys in the next video.